Hey, jackass, where's my DoorDash?
I don't know. DoorDash had a problem. As their cloud-native environment scaled and developers delivered new features, their monitoring system did what monitoring systems do and kept breaking down. In an organization where data is used to make better decisions about technology and about the business, losing observability means the entire company loses their competitive edge. With Chronosphere, DoorDash is no longer losing visibility into their application suite. What's the key? Chronosphere is an open-source, compatible, scalable, and reliable observability solution that gives the observability lead at DoorDash business confidence and peace of mind. To learn more, read the full success story at snark.cloud/Chronosphere success. People tend to think of ChatOps as a conversation-driven means of running software. But that, my friends, is an oversimplification that misses a critical point. ChatOps is rather the novel operational practice of expanding your security perimeter to anyone who has access to the right Slack channel or to Slack's own production infrastructure. Now, this is obviously my own definition, and people tend not to talk about it this way. I'm afraid that's going to be a big problem someday. See, there seems to be a large scale aversion to discussing the risks of ChatOps in public, and I can't shake the feeling that this is going to bite all of us in the end. Unless you've been living in a hole for the last decade, you've encountered Slack. Yes, some people use Microsoft Teams for work instead. I do not understand, nor do I endorse this behavior, and neither should you, because Teams is trash. Slack is a Salesforce company, and it's also the single organization that I would attempt to breach if I were looking to do some real damage. Why? Well, because people store code and databases and naughty videos in their AWS accounts. But they talk about things ranging from lunch plans to mergers and acquisitions, to their passwords, to their extramarital affairs, to their insider trading crimes, all within Slack. This is largely considered a boon for law enforcement and regulators looking to simplify a lot of their e-discovery work, but we don't talk about that. No. People treat chat psychologically as if it were ephemeral, with messages gone as soon as they're sent and then read. But this isn't Snapchat we're talking about here. All of your Slack messages live not in some ephemeral database like an early version of MongoDB, but rather as rows in MySQL. Slack's security team is excellent because they damn well have to be. Because if they're not, your deepest chat secrets are but a SQL query away. So, anywho, the way that this all arose is that some enterprising folks eventually started instrumenting Slack a little bit because it occurred to them that, hey, Jimothy, do you want to go to lunch? Isn't that far removed from, hey, AWS, deploy to production. The sound effect that Slack plays when a message arrives really is the creak of Pandora's Docker container flinging itself wide open. Never ones to spy an ill-defined buzzword without enthusiastically launching a service into the category, AWS has created a full-on service called, of course, AWS Chatbot. It is roughly here, as they say, that our troubles begin. With the magic of ChatOps, I fear that among the profound and disturbing secrets that Slack holds is full root access to your company's AWS accounts. Now, AWS Chatbot has a deep dive into how to configure its permissions, which approximately nobody bothers to read, much less implement. I mean, just look at this terrifying list of commands here and how it's talked about. Users can be assigned roles, they can change roles, they can assume roles, and at least some of these roles we're talking about are not IAM roles, but some of them are, I think, because, you know, security being confusing is just awesome. Folks are rarely as diligent as we, and belatedly they, wish they had been when it comes to security. There's a whole mess of fiddly to troubleshoot parts of chatbot setup that people are often going to override, saying, the hell with this, I trust my team. We're just going to grant them all admin level access and fix it later. Well, later never comes, and that leaves Slack users with access to do some truly terrible things in very sensitive environments due to the rise of the ChatOps phenomenon. In the event of a company inviting the wrong user to the wrong channel, a Slack security lapse or an inside threat at Slack itself, there's now an entirely new attack surface against a company's AWS environment. Insider trading cuts less viscerally at the engineering mind than full access to production, or how AWS might respond to a passive-aggressive API call because it was framed in the form of a chat message. What makes this so pernicious and borderline unique is that I don't see people talking about this risk as anything other than a passing abstract thought. Now, let's be sure that we give AWS some credit here. There are a whole bunch of permissions that AWS flat out will not support working via Chatbot, no matter how poorly you manage to misconfigure the thing. But that said, there's more than a little bit of ambiguity here. It's a deny list of permissions rather than an allow list. So who's responsible for keeping that list updated with new and excitingly dangerous services? Is there a baked-in permissions boundary that won't shed these restrictions the moment the chatbot assumes a role via an STS call? As one example, it blocks an EC2 permission, but disturbingly, not the ability to associate with an IAM instance profile variant of that permission. I haven't gone in depth with this yet, but I can envision a few ways a bad actor could brush these limitations aside as they're currently written and explained. I am not suggesting that Slack is a bad company or product, nor that they will or have suffered a breach. I'm also not suggesting that AWS doesn't have the tools in place to appropriately limit the blast radius of ChatOps. I'm not even suggesting that any of this is inherently a bad idea. I am suggesting that people are fallible. And from where I sit, Slack with AWS Chatbot enabled feels like a major risk factor that's largely going unacknowledged by the folks responsible for managing risk appropriately. So if that's you, you might want to look a little bit more closely into your company's ChatOps guardrails.